Ladies and gentlemen, I am officially running for President of the United States, and we are going to make our country great again.
Back in the book segment tonight, new CNN poll. Very good news for one Donald Trump. He leads the Republican field with 24%.
On the Republican side, Donald Trump trouncing his rivals there in Nevada.
Donald Trump now has a commanding lead in California with 49% of the vote.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump.
Donald Trump, man, multi-billionaire, and the 45th President of the United States of America. How did this real estate mogul rise to become the most powerful man on the entire planet and become one of the most influential figures in world history? It all started on June 16, 2015, when Donald J. Trump announced his candidacy for the President of the United States. Running one of the biggest and glorious campaigns in United States history, Trump easily defeated rivals such as Lion Ted, Little Marco, and Heartless Hillary. In what was projected to be one of the closest votes in history, on the day of the election, Trump defeated Hillary 73% to her 26%. President Trump was sworn in on January 20th, 2017, a day that began the greatest presidency in the history of the United States. To show that he will do exactly what he says he will do, on the first day in office, Donald Trump repealed every single one of former President Barack Obama's executive orders. Trump also pulled out of the North American Free Trade Agreement, or NAFTA, saying, quote, "I think NAFTA has been a disaster. I think our current deals are a disaster. I'm a free trader." As a result of this economic move, Mexico and Canada both no longer received free trade with the United States. This allowed a greater economic opportunity for the United States as many jobs returned very quickly. Most important, capital investments made in overseas production switched very quickly back to U.S. companies. Products began to be manufactured in the United States as most companies reopened large factories, decreasing unemployment rates in the United States. Tariffs became high enough that manufacturing of high-tech goods switched back to the United States and away from Southeast Asia and the crosshairs of the Chinese military. After pulling out of NAFTA, Trump began the process of building a wall on the southern border. Just like any project that requires federal funding, Trump had to go to Congress for approval. Since the Congress at the time was a majority Republican Congress, Trump received the funding he needed for the construction of the wall. As a rushed government project, the construction of a wall took only 1 year. In President Trump's own words, "It's a beautiful wall. It is magnificent. So great." This new wall provided protection from the steady stream of illegal immigrants coming back to the United States. It provided a greater economic stability to the United States as more jobs were being created from the increase in U.S. production and the decrease of illegal immigrants. After building a wall, Trump began placing economic pressure on Mexico to balance the $58 billion trade deficit. As President Trump was improving the lives of everyday Americans by making America great again, trouble was brewing in the Middle East. The Islamic terror group ISIS was gaining power through military force. Local military presence was all but defeated as ISIS spread out its reign of terror in the Middle East. The world took a breath once we learned that ISIS had successfully taken control of Syria in late 2017, and the world was shocked when we learned that Iraq had fallen to terrorists. Troops were mobilized in the Middle East to take out the terror group before they became too big to defeat. A date that would live in infamy, a day that really began President Trump's presidency, April 1st, 2018. 2,238 dead after ISIS performed extensive air raids on Fort Jackson, a military base in South Carolina, and Camp Lejeune, a Marine Corps base in North Carolina. President Trump made a speech just 3 hours after the bombing in which he officially declared war on ISIS. Soon after this, troops were sent to the Middle East as President Trump sent in everything he had. 2 years into the 3-year war, President Trump defeated rival Kanye West and was elected to his second term as the American people needed Trump's will to defeat ISIS. 1 year after being re-elected, President Trump saw no other option but to bomb major areas in the Middle East to flush out the terror group. It effectively worked, ending the war in the Middle East.
Since the beginning of his campaign, Mr. Trump showed interest on ISIS. One of his first promises was to increase bombing on ISIS, which he did directly following his inauguration. The attacks on Fort Jackson and Camp Lejeune, however, of 2018, brought renewed vigor to the issue. This call for action led to a complete war on ISIS. Our land forces were much better trained than the extremists. However, the militants were so entrenched in local villages that it took much longer than most people wanted for the war to end. This extended war brought increased casualties and beginnings of anti-war feelings among a few civilians. The war had a toll on the U.S. that resembled Vietnam decades prior. Footage had been released of possible mass civilian casualties. In these videos, cities and towns were being carpet bombed. As was typical of Donald Trump, however, he denied any mass bombing activity despite the amount of copious evidence against him. When the war was won, Donald Trump founded the new state of Trumplandia under the Western Democratic form of government.
But Trump's actions resonated around the world as NATO and the UN had strained relations with Trump due to the evidence provided for the massacre of civilians, while the Middle East tension rose between the traditional states and Trumplandia. The new internal strife that faced America showed a window of opportunity for the upcoming conflict that America was unprepared to face.
Trump steaks are the world's greatest steaks, and I mean that in every sense of the word. And the Sharper Image is the only store where you can buy them. Trump steaks are by far the best tasting, most flavorful beef you've ever had, truly in a league of their own. If you like your steak, you'll absolutely love Trump steaks. Treat yourself to the very, very best life has to offer. And as a gift, Trump steaks are the best you can give. One bite and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. And believe me, I understand steaks. It's my favorite food, and these are the best.
As a result of the dissolution of NAFTA, the building of a wall, and the economic pressure, Mexico began falling into an economic crisis similar to the Greek economic crisis that took place several years prior. Mexican businesses that thrived before the wall began to fail, and a rise in unemployment rates skyrocketed as more and more Mexican citizens were deported from the United States and no jobs were available to them. After several years of this depression, a revolution occurred, resulting in the takeover by Esteban Julio Ricardo de la Rosa Ramirez, the new leader of Mexico. Ramirez installed a new government in Mexico and soon declared war on the United States to take back their former economic role in the world. This began the Mexican-American War, a period of great loss to all countries in North America and one of the most influential wars in American history.
Breaking news, ladies and gentlemen. Fox News has just got report that the Mexican President Ramirez has declared war on the United States of America. We don't have all the details yet, as we have just found out, but what we do know is President Trump is preparing a statement and mobilizing troops to the southern border.
The Mexican-American War of 2022 was the first war fought on American soil in a very long time. After President Ramirez declared war on the United States, President Trump immediately mobilized troops to the southern border. The first major encounter at the border was when the Mexican army successfully broke through the wall on the southern border near the town of Laredo, Texas. American troops were successful in repelling the small wave of Mexican soldiers, but that battle was one of very many. 2 days later, surprise attacks in towns such as Fort Stockton and San Antonio resulted in the death of around 40,000 American civilians and military personnel. War raged on for about a year. The wall on the southern border, dubbed the Great Wall of Trump by the media, protected the U.S. from a large-scale Mexican invasion. Similar to actions taken during World War II, the U.S. implemented Mexican internment camps as a way to prevent any suspected Mexican spies and as a way of ensuring safety for the United States. After what seemed to be a lifetime of battle, Mexico dealt a substantial blow to the United States. In what seemed to be a peaceful Friday night on October 13, 2023, Mexican bombers destroyed the cities of Houston, Texas, and Los Angeles, California, the second and fourth most populated cities in the United States. In what was named the Friday Blitz after similar tactics taken by the Germans on Britain in World War II, the United States was crippled by the death of 2 million and the severely injured population of 1.5 million. In a quick response to those surprise attacks, American B-2 bombers carpet-bombed Mexico City, crippling the capital of Mexico and leaving behind the death of about 1 million Mexican civilians and military personnel. But what seemed like only in addition to the series of unfortunate events, the Canadian Embassy was one of the buildings that was completely destroyed in the bombing. What the American military did not know was that Mexico was hosting high-ranking members of the Canadian military and government. In an angered outcry by the Canadian government, war was declared on the United States. This was now a full-fledged North American war. Similar to times during the FDR presidency, America was under a great amount of stress from the world and from internal problems. The only solution to end the war quickly, like the war in the Middle East, was to re-elect Trump to a third term. In what seems like a miracle or an act of God, Donald Trump was sworn into his third term on January 20th, 2024. President Trump immediately resumed his campaign to end the war on the home front. Lives were lost as an expensive stalemate was beginning to form after another year of warfare. No one seemed to make any progress into enemy territory until Mexico and Canada both broke through American lines simultaneously on March 12, 2025, and divided the U.S. and took over the majority of Colorado, a state directly in the center of the country. The Mexican and Canadian armies held up in Colorado for several days, only seeing minor scuffles as the U.S. tried to regain lost territory. It wasn't until March 21, 2025, President Trump successfully defeated the Mexican and Canadian armies in Colorado. About a week later, U.S. troops invaded Mexico and Canada and toppled the governments, causing the Mexican-American War to finally come to an end 3 years after it began. Several days after the surrender of what was left of Canada and Mexico, President Trump began drawing up plans to assimilate Mexico and Canada into the United States. After about a year of rebuilding and the creation of a new political infrastructure, the new United States of America was born. Stretching almost 10 million square miles, the new United States of America became the new superpower in the world. Bigger than Russia and China, America became a major competing force in the world economy again, rivaling China in the production industry. Just as President Trump promised during his 2016 run for president, and what he's been implementing over the past several years, Trump brought China to the bargaining table by immediately declaring it a currency manipulator. He also protected American ingenuity and investment by forcing China to uphold intellectual property laws and stop their unfair and unlawful practice of forcing U.S. companies to share proprietary technology with Chinese competitors as a condition of entry to China's market. In his quest for economic justice against China, President Trump reclaimed millions of American jobs and revived American manufacturing by putting an end to China's illegal export subsidies and tax, labor, and environmental standards. No more sweatshops or pollution havens stole jobs from American workers. President Trump also strengthened American negotiating positions by lowering corporate tax rate to keep American companies and jobs at home, attacking debt and deficits so China cannot use financial blackmail, and bolstering the U.S. military presence in the East and South China Seas to discourage Chinese adventurism. It wasn't until his second term did America see a substantial boost in the economic sector. The unemployment rate before President Trump was elected was about 6.3%, and that slowly worked its way down to less than 1%, similar to the rates during World War I. Trump had truly made America great again, just like he promised. This new economic surplus created new money in the government. When the people prospered, so did the government. American people soon began to almost worship President Trump. His favorability ratings went through the roof as he improved the economy, won several wars, and expanded U.S. borders. Construction began on several monuments dedicated to President Trump. The new project, dubbed Mount Trumpmore, began in the new Northern Territory. In the new Southern Territory, construction began on a large statue of President Trump. Trump even became the new face of the $100 bill. It became a wonder to the world how anyone could ever hate this man.
Yes, thank you.
What? How are you in this video? This is a closed set. You're not allowed in here.
I heard there was a video being made about me, so what better person to tell the story of Donald Trump than Donald Trump?
I'm sorry, President Trump, you can't be in here.
I can do what I want. I'm the president. Thank you, and goodbye.
What? You can't do this. You can't do this. No.
Thank you. Now where were we? Oh yes, Donald Trump. He's the greatest president in history. The J stands for genius, okay? I'm brilliant. I'm rich. I'm the best. Forget Obama. Forget all of them. They were nice guys, but they were lightweights. A lot of people are saying President Trump is the best. He's the greatest. He's the most amazing guy. His presidency was huge. So great. Thank you, and remember to vote for me in my 4th term. Thank you.
Okay. I think we have control back. Where were we? Oh yes, President Trump. How could anyone hate him? He is one of the most influential presidents in American history. After the dust settled on world affairs, America became a superpower with President Trump as the leader. The United States also became the leader in the global economy, producing about 50% of all goods used by the world as more and more companies grew in the United States. The American people love him. Everyone loves him. He is the most popular president in American history. On this anniversary celebrating 3 very successful terms in office, President Trump has made a lasting impact on America as a whole. We do not know what is to come, but we do know that no matter what, President Trump will always be there to guide our country.